Hey friends, we're talking seed saving today. It is already middle of September. I know, I don't know where the summer went. I wish it would stay at least for another month at least. But you never know. I have some very low temperatures at the end of my 10-day forecast, which get me a little bit scared here. But it's a perfect moment to start seed saving and start to collect some seeds. So we'll do that today. I'll walk you through my process, what I use, like in terms of materials. Spoiler, it's not much. And then I'm just walking through and going through the different plants which you can save and what I save in my garden. So let's have a look. So I brought my beautiful garden table out, and for that we have here a few items which I typically use for seed savings. Just some plain old lunch bags, so those brown bags. Those paper bags are really perfect because they help to dry out the seeds and just are breathable, so that I have not had yet any mold issues or so with things getting wet in there or starting to mold or rot. They have been really perfect. One big plus, you can write on them so you remember what seeds you saved. Then typically once I have separated seeds and want to store the seeds, I have those teeny tiny envelopes. And the ones who are following me a while on Instagram, I always do my annual seed share where I will give back to the community and send everyone a set of seeds which they like to have. So if that is of interest for you, I will have a link in the description as well, where you can sign up for a newsletter where I'll let you know when that comes around. It's usually around Thanksgiving, as I love to give back in that regard to the community and everyone who supports me throughout the year on all my platforms. So I love to do that. It makes my heart happy. And yeah, anyway, digressing here, but those little teeny tiny envelopes are really perfect for just saving the seeds and again, like writing on it what they are. And then sometimes I also like to use organza bags to just put in the seed heads and save those ones. Those are big. I have some smaller ones somewhere. I just couldn't find them. Anyway, but I have everything also listed in the description below, so you have it easy to find what I'm showing you here. And for that, I've used organza bags always in previous years, but word to the wise, they are like transparent, or like it's just a very fine mesh netting, right? So they have a tendency to sprinkle around dirt or like debris a little bit. So I think most of my seeds will go in the lunch bags first, to avoid that in the end. But anything which is breathable and let air through is perfectly fine and works very well for those seed saving activities. So what we're going to do next is going through the plants where I want to save some seeds from and look at them and understand what we can do there to actually save the seeds. So let's go. Let's start with the Ami here. You can see it's quite a brown, dried up bush already, so it's perfect for seed saving. When you look closer to the seed heads, they are already crisps, which means when you mildly shake them, the seeds are all falling out already. So that is the state which is ideal because you're sure that you have ripe seed. What are indicators for ripe seeds, or what I always look for when I'm seed saving in my garden, is that I have the seed head and the bottom of the seed head at least dried out. Then you typically know the plant is done producing seed and really has mature seed on the top, and it's also dry enough to ensure that there's no like moisture issue usually. So that is always a good thing to keep in mind. You want to like save seeds when it's dry outside and not when it's raining. So today is a perfect day. Get a little rain in a couple days again, so but it's been dry for like 3-4 days, so that's a good moment to pick those seeds. So I just grabbed my little paper bag, which is already labeled properly, and for plants which are already like sprinkling seeds, I typically hold the bag underneath while I'm cutting off the seed head. So like this, for example, or just put it already in it. Let me actually grab one so you can see properly here. Yeah, so just like bending it in, cutting it off. And what's the nice thing with the paper bags as well is you can, especially for something dry like this, you can already shake it around and separate the seeds from the seed head, which you want in the end, especially if you want to share seeds later. So, yep, and then you just go along and save as many as you like. I'll try not to sprinkle them all over because I don't want to have all volunteers next year. Although this Ammi is supposed to be not invasive and very nice to monitor. I'll give you an update on that next year if that's really true, or if I'm plugging out volunteers all spring long. I hope not. That was one of the reasons why I picked that one over anything which has a more invasive nature like Queen Lace Anne or so. Or that chocolate lace variety which is out there. So yep, so then I'll just go along. Again, I'm happy to share those. Those will be for sure included in my annual seed share. So look out for this. The easiest way to get notified by that is either over my newsletter or following me on Instagram. Either one of those work. So just look out for that. Yeah, and what I typically do once I've saved the seeds and I have a plant in the garden which sprinkles out seeds like this, I wrap it in something like a plastic bag or so, just for transportation purposes, and bring it somewhere on the compost where it doesn't do harm, and just make sure that it's not keep sprinkling for the next foreseeable future seeds. So for the next one, I got to dunk down here a little bit. And those are my bells of Ireland, which, please beware those dang thorns. They are still kind of thorny even when they're dried out. So they have a little nickname which is called hellspells. So make sure that you are cautious with your fingers here. But with every seed saving activity, it's really helpful to be able to know, or to know what the seed actually looks like. That makes you also able to identify the seeds, because there are 4 seeds on the bottom of that little blooms. They split up into, they almost look like teeny tiny acorns. So I'll typically save those little blooms and separate them later from each other. And that is what I do with most of my seeds. So I'll save them, put them in the bag, let them dry, and let them dry fully out, because I always save the seed saving for winter time, like literally for like November or something, when I'm bored, there's no gardening anymore, and I'm dreaming of next year's season. This always gives me joy, and it's really something nice to do on an evening in front of the TV, to separate those seeds manually. Yeah, so I'll just save those ones here. Every once in a while, I double check that they're still in it and not already dispensed. But they are all looking fine. Otherwise, they will also self-seed, so it's a good thing to get them out before they do that. So it's already gone. You can feel it typically when you touch them on the bottom, that if the seeds are still in it. Again, beware the thorns, but Bells of Ireland are worth it. They didn't have this year a great chance for life because of how I planted them, but I'll correct that next year. Learn something again, because they got like very, very quickly crowded and shaded out by this massive Ammi plant. Nevertheless, I got a few stems of it, so it wasn't a total loss. But they will definitely get a little bit more space next year and will be perfectly fine. So the thing which you need to remember with Bells of Ireland, once you start them from seed, is that they need some cold stratification. They need to have a period. Dang it. Word to the wise, watch out for the thorns. They need some cold stratification. So ideally, you place those seeds in a fridge or a freezer for like 2 to 3 weeks. I usually just have them in the freezer or in the fridge, and they are fine. So with that, the cold stratification is necessary to basically signal the seed that it has gone through winter and spring is coming around when you start them, so you get that proper germination. Otherwise, they're really tough to germinate. And I typically, even with the cold stratification, I still germinate them in a little paper towel to make sure that I have proper germination for them. And then once they germinate on the paper towel, I put them in the little soil blocks. So that has worked well for me in the past, so that I got good germination out of them. And yeah, curious to see how it works with the saved ones, but I'm optimistic because so far all my saved seed experiments have worked out well. So I'm confident that this one will work. And I know they're a prolific self-seeder, so should be all good here with those seeds. So next up is this pretty marigold, and here it works the same like I explained it with the Ami as well. You want to look for the seed heads which are already dried on top of it. So we have here a beautiful example. Cut that out. That is actually already opening. That's like the perfect moment. What it looks like. Those are the seeds here. And like marigold is super easy to seed save and have it for all of the seed saving shenanigans. So they are prolific to save seeds. And then I typically, again, like just go through, snip the dead seed heads off, and just check them. Yeah, all beautiful mature seeds. And save those ones for later. And those are such a beautiful companion plant. I love those to tuck them in like in all kind of border beds. They stay this size. This is already like a very, very matured size for them. But yeah, it's just such a gorgeous plant. Not everyone loves the smell, but I actually don't mind it. I find it's a pleasant one, at least to my nose. And yeah, just their little perfect orangey red flowers are just a delight in the garden. You don't need to deadhead them constantly. It's really nice and easy to grow plant. I would highly recommend to grow that one with kids or so, or if you're a first time or beginner gardener. They are really, really great. And they also deter other pests. Like bunnies don't like the smell so much, supposedly. They haven't eaten them, but I also got to say they have not been appalled by anywhere where I planted them. So not sure. I had some very desperate bunnies this year, so they ate it anyway. And there you go. Good number of seeds saved here. So for our big and beautiful cosmos here, I clearly didn't keep up the deadheading as I intended to, so we have a lot of seeds here to save. And again, I'm looking for the ones who are dried from top to bottom. This one is a beautiful example here. And this one wants to disperse seeds already. You can see them sticking out on the top when you break it down. You see a lot of beautiful seeds sitting here in the chaff. So those seeds are really, really great and easy to save. You can winnow over them, which means like that is a process which they do for seed saving, which means like basically with wind, or not with wind, with air, like trying to remove the easy lightweight chaff, which is not seeds but just like plant material. And you see it all flying off. And now look at that, we have pretty much nice saved seeds here. So yeah, so that's an easy way to clean them. Let me put them in the bag and carry on here. whenever I share seeds out of the garden, which I saved, I also make sure that I mark them as a mix, right? From the moment you have them cross-pollinating with other varieties, which I had here, I had like 2 or 3 different Cosmos varieties. You don't know what you will get. It will be some sort of a beautiful mix out of those typically. So for that reason, I always label my seeds which I share as a mix, so nobody's disappointed when things look a little bit different like they have seen it in my garden. Here we have one of the last of the sunflower Steve sunflowers I had in my garden. This one was gorgeous. It was like a super dark chocolatey one. I really liked it. It was also massively tall, but nevertheless, I really enjoyed it and wanted to save seeds. But one thing you can see here is it's not fully dry yet, right? So you can see here still that it's green and not really dried like the other plants. And when I checked on the seeds, they look like they're getting along, but I wasn't trusting it that they're fully mature yet. One thing with sunflowers though is the birds, the squirrels, like everything loves to pick those seeds. So for that reason, that is where I'm using now this larger organza bag to just put that over the seed head and prevent that any type of like squirrel or birds start picking on those precious seeds, right? I shook it off earlier to make sure that I don't have any bugs with it in it, but I'll leave that on and leave that in the garden for just a little longer, and probably like, I don't know, like 2 to 3 weeks until I'm really tired of seeing it leaning out of my garden here. But it's worth it for me to save some more of those precious seeds from those gorgeous sunflowers. So I'll share for sure a few of those in my annual seed share as well. So again, like check out the newsletter or follow me on Instagram for when the time comes, most likely around Thanksgiving. So I hope this was an interesting video for you, what I do now with all of those seeds I saved in this big army bucket. I usually park them in my basement where it's dry, where it's cool, where they have just time to dry out further, where they don't bother anyone in case there's a bug or two crawling out of them. So consider this too. But I'll just store them until I have time to pick them apart and clear them for this annual seed share. So yeah, I hope this was an interesting video for you. Let me know if you have any questions. I would love if you can like that video. That helps me to get just a little bit more popular with that dang YouTube algorithm. And yeah, otherwise, subscribe and watch another video. Thank you.